Yeah, that'll work. Right, test drive. Hot today. Right, start your bastard. Windows open. Oh. Right, let's bugger off down to Moore Valley. We'll have a chat about Range Rovers while we're going. Right, here we go. Right, and off we go. Behaved myself, haven't I? Right, so I'm clear in both directions. It's a bastard to come out of that junction, I'm afraid. It's just one of those things. Hopefully you can hear me. It's not too bad sort of outside of the summer season, but of course summer season comes along and we just end up with thousands and thousands of cars and miserable caravans with their miserable occupants and their pucker-faced wives and their grumpy husbands because he's been forced to go in a bloody caravan again and all he wants to do is sit at home watching the football, drinking beer, and they just clog up the roads of North Devon. But still, it could be worse. So yeah, behaving himself. Temperature's normal, performing quite nicely. Just flick it on to LPG. There's a switch down here. Yeah, it's on LPG. An LPG can be bought for about 56p a litre. It's rude not to use it, it really is. And I know this thing averages around the 16 miles to the gallon mark on LPG. That ain't bad. It only costs you 56p a litre rather than £1.24 for unleaded. It's going to be a real buy on the old wallet. So I do 220 miles on 60 litres ish of LPG. Green light, we're going for it. Just get past this bit. Roadworks. So what's it like living with one of these things? Well, I should know. I've had this one for a decade and I had another one before for 3 or 4 years. And I'm in the middle of building one and I've set a business up around building them. Rebuilding nut bolt restorations. Well, from my opinion, or from my perspective, I absolutely love these things. I think they're fantastic. They're very, very comfortable. They achieve an awful lot. Depreciation curve is, well, when I first started tinkering with them, it bottomed out and they started going up in value. Now they're going stratospheric. But I won't sell this one. This is a keep up. I love this car. It's done 189,000 miles now. The engine's not been apart. I replaced the sunk gasket on it a little while ago. It's had new timing gears in the front, but still running its original camshaft. And still returning 16 point something miles to the gallon on LPG. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the engine health-wise, other than the fact it's done 189,000 miles. I have got a leak tester at home, which is quite useful if you can get each cylinder on the compression stroke, or even just remove the rockers. If I move the rocker shafts of both cylinders, both banks, then I can pressurise each of the cylinders and work out what the loss rate is. And there's a figure that will give you an indication as to whether the piston rings are worn or how worn they are. But I'm inclined not to tempt fate, because you know it, being me, as soon as I try and loosen one of the spark plugs, the thread will come out with it, something stupid like that, and then I'll end up having to take the head off, and then that'll annoy me, because it's not been apart yet. Tractor, I have changed the plugs in this. I've put the Super 4s, once with the 4 electrodes, sorry, the 4 forks going to the central electrode. made a massive difference to the performance of this thing. I think if you're looking for something that will go around corners like it's on rails, this isn't for you. If you're looking for something, comfy, lofty, old V8 large, then yeah. Should you go diesel? Horses for courses. It's up to you. I don't like diesel. It's just a personal preference. I've always run petrol cars. Whenever my wife's had diesel cars, they've been an utter ball's ache. I know there's be so many people who be disappointed with me saying I don't like diesels, but I don't. It is the fuel of Satan, maybe. I like petrol, I like LPG, I like V8s, I like the torque that the V8 brings. People say, yes, but a 300 TDI gives massive amount of... No, it doesn't give much more torque than the 3.9 V8. And I tell you what, the 3.9 V8 sounds nicer and goes. Right, let's get onto the link road. So we're going to go down to Mole Valley, I think, and get some beer. Right, we'll do a quick speed test. It's going to be a struggle doing a speed test today because there's so many bloody cars on the road. In fact, I'm going to struggle to do a speed test because the road is rammed. Oh, see what I mean about the sound? Right, cool, all up now. There's a truck. Yeah, so petrol Range Rovers, Range Rover Classics. This was a 1993. It's got a fair few toys on it. I mean, at the time it came up with ABS brakes and electric windows all around. Those were, they were domain of luxury cars. I suppose because of the image that this thing attracted with the Sloan Ranger and all that, then they kind of didn't expect these toys. Electric seats, leather seats, brushed headlining, which I've retrimmed myself. Aircon works beautifully, icy cold, nice big VA, fuel injected. It's bulletproof mechanics really, this thing, he says, temptingly. For me this thing just works. It's only ever left me high and dry. Twice, and both of those have been electrical problems. Once the starter motor solenoid burnt out, and because it's automatic and covered in oil, the RAC man really didn't fancy changing it in the pissing rain in November, so he just relayed me home, which was a pain in the balls. And I fitted the starter motor the next morning. It took about half an hour. And then the other time was the alternator, packed up. One of the brushes started to burn out, then seized its housing, and then just the brush just ate itself. And they do that, I'm afraid. It's alright, there's a funny junction there off the 361, the North Devon Link Road, and I kind of had to give way to people coming across the link road going the other direction, the same direction as I was. He was very nice there and decided to wave me across. And this one's automatic as well, so this one comes with the 4-speed automatic box that came in, I think, on these cars in about 1989. And it's a lovely gearbox, it really is. You need to, if you go off-roading, and there's no reason why you wouldn't, because I tend not to with this one, because I've got Land Rovers and stuff to go off-roading in. But if I did go off-roading in this, then I would need to increase the frequency of my automatic transmission fluid changes and the axle changes and so forth, because you really don't want to get contaminants, water mainly, river water and mud and shit into these finely tuned mechanicals. Different water, I guess I did. But because I don't off-road in this thing, I tend to change the fluid in the filter about every 60,000 miles. It's longer than the suggested rate, but that's because Land Rover are anticipating people are going to get these things wet from time to time, and because of that they don't want them moaning like hell, because the automatic gearbox is full of muddy river water. Right, Mole Valley Farms. Is there a throughy? There is a throughy. We love a throughy. next to this Nissan Trano. It's quite clean there. Right, let's go get some beer. Oh, the other nice thing about these, everyone looks at you when you pull into a car park. Probably thinking, who's that planet killing tool? Anyway, right, I'm going to get some beer and we'll have another chat. Right, that's done that. So I picked up some antifreeze, local farming supply, now in the car. So where were we? Automatic gearboxes in these things. It's quite a common box actually. It's used in a lot of Jags around the 90s until the noughties. It's, as I say, it's a fairly common gearbox. It's got the transfer box bolted onto the back of it. Busy here today. Got the transfer box bolted onto the back of it. No, it's not bloody kids picking up time yet, is it? It might be. All traffic turn right when leaving site. I'm not contracting traffic. Right, let's get out of here. Can't really see past that. There's a truck coming up. Yeah, I'll so you can get these things with a manual gearbox, and I've seen some V8 manual gearboxes. I just cannot see the point in it. I mean, unless I'm going to make a habit of going down really steep hills, I don't need to really worry about the hill descent. Oh, there's the water light just come on. Let me just double check, make sure we've not pissed it all out everywhere. No, that was fine. It just dropped about a centimetre or so. So it was on the minimum limit, and there's a float sensor thing on the float sensor. I just said, hey, cool, it's a bit low, which I'm not surprised about because I have only just filled it up. Right, let's go into town. So you see, the automatic gearbox just really suits this thing. The gearing on it's bang on, makes it sound nice. My Stag had an automatic gearbox. It had a big Borg Warner 35 gearbox, which is agricultural by comparison. And when it started to piss me around, I sort of, rather than spend a small fortune getting it refurbished, which is going to be only 1,500 quid at the time, I managed to pick myself up a refurbished manual overdrive gearbox for 600 quid. So that went onto the Stag. Kind of wasn't until it went on there that I noticed how much the exhaust note is more pleasant when you're in an automatic than you are in a manual. With the manual, obviously, you can do the whole Steve McQueen double declutching on the up and the down shifts, but just because it's fun. But in automatic, you do that. You see, you can't do that in a manual. It doesn't pick up the or the torque converter doesn't slip, allowing the engine revs to rise before it catches up on the drivetrain. Just concentrating going through town here. You get some dickheads, cop wombles. We're in Southport, no. School chucking out time because clocking my car's wrong because I had the battery disconnected. Gosh, you can tell it's warm around here. There's a chap without his shirt on. So yeah, manual gearbox, Range Rover. Disco, I've driven Disco 200 TDI, manual gearbox in that. It's outstanding. I have not driven a nicer machine off-road than a Disco 1 200 TDI with a manual gearbox. So there you go, there's the paradox. And it was outstanding. It was great fun. And I'm looking for one. I am looking for a 200 TDI, but The problem is the Disco 1s, they just rotted with a fury, and they don't have the residual value in them yet that the early Range Rovers have. So if I can find one that's not too tragic and devastating, I'm going to go for a Disco 1, 200 TDI, because I've got enough V8s. And there you go, there's my chink in my armour about diesel. But it really suits that car, and that car off-road, it is a weapon. I'm pretty much out of the box too. Right, I'll just go around the car park, and then I'm going to go get some beer. The breakfast of champions. Some might say that beer is not just for breakfast. Right, okay, so let me just whiz into Sainsbury's and go and get me beer stocked up. As you can see, I'm particularly well presented today. And then I've got myself a Glastonbury spicy sausage roll to eat when I get back. Right, got me some beer. Time to go and do some damn work now. Be about 4 o'clock. About another 3 hours. Car starts. Now, one thing that you find in South Molton, people love to walk behind cars that are reversing. So let's see how many walk behind the car now. There's one car coming. They do it. I think I just reversed over one. Chap's giving me a funny look. So, Range Rover, automatic, 3.9, early 90s, automatic, preferred car. What goes wrong with them? Apart from routine servicing, rust is your biggest worry. They rot like thunder. Not generally the chassis, it's the... So there's another difference as well. You've got soft dash or hard dash. Hard dash is traditional Range Rover look on the inside. So they come with a hard dash, and it's got the big old pod in front of you. Then, in the last year of production, getting out of this bloody junction. In the last year of production, about end of 94 I think it was, they brought what's called the soft dash out, which was effectively, it was a Disco 2 dashboard in a Range Rover Classic, but they changed an awful lot of shit. And they changed the lube, and they changed the engines, and they did this, that and the other, and serpentine belts came in. And they became sort of like a halfway house between a Disco 2 and Range Rover P38 and the Range Rover Classic. So they're a bit of a ball's ache actually. I'm not a big fan of the soft dash. Another shock gasp. And the other problem with soft dashes is they rot like fuck. Honestly. I mean, like, I'm doing up 1970s cars that are rusty, but for some reason soft dash cars, they just rust like I don't know what. Like they've got nothing else to do. They're just going to rust. I don't know if they use thinner steel. I don't know if they just didn't bother putting any protection on them. Which is a nice bottom. I don't know if they didn't put any protection on them. But yeah, they just rust. So another thing is if I'm looking for an ideal car, it will be somewhere between late 1989 and end of 93, up until the soft dashes kind of came on. And all of those cars with petrol should have 3.9 litre hot wire fuel injection, which is very efficient, and they should all have the same 4-speed automatic gearbox available to them. Should be able to do a speed test in a second. It's going to start sort of like a little bit. Let me see if I can get angle. Oh, we're going to go straight off. Right, that's 60. I'm going uphill too. So the old girl, she's got a fair pace to her. And I'm sort of trundling along now about 65 miles an hour on the sort of speedo, probably nearer about 60. This thing overreads a little bit. So yeah, as I was saying, ideal car, late 80s, be careful, late 80s to end of hard dash production. Any UK car should come with the ABS setup. You got 3 different cars. You got the basic, just Range Rover 3.9. Then you had the Vogue, which is what this one is, and then you had the Vogue SE. The Vogue SE was the all singing, all dancing. Came with air suspension, electric leather seats, aircon. What else did it come with? Air suspension. Did I say air suspension? I might have said air suspension twice. Probably need to say it twice because you probably need 2 of them because the reputation they've got is not good. But fix it with a hammer, and people take it all off and they put springs on them, and the air suspension on a Range Rover Classic is really good. It is really very good, and it's not difficult to fix. I've not had any massive issues with cars that I've had to do air suspension on. This one's running on coil springs, which is fine. It's still running its original springs actually. Springs have done 189,000 miles. But I'm loath to put modern replacements on because you know they'll be made out of cheese. I've replaced the dampers a couple of times. I tend to go for the best quality dampers I can lay my hands on. And it certainly helps the handling. And this was fitted with anti-roll bars as well. It's another thing they introduced, I think about 1990. They put anti-roll bars front and back, which limits the axle articulation, but makes the road manners much more predictable. You see the grab handles around the roof on Range Rovers. They're quite commonly known as fuck handles, as in your passengers hanging onto them and shouting fuck. Not when I'm driving, of course. No. So earlier cars, well, there's a bit of a void at the moment, I think. So anything 90s is going up in value. Anything 70s is going up in value. 80s 4 doors. Now there's the void. Now, for some reason they haven't really picked up yet, and I think it's largely because they're not as luxurious as the 90s cars. They're just as much pain as far as fixing them and maintaining them is concerned. So it's a smaller engine. They came in with the EFI, so they're carbs to start off with in the early 1980s. They don't have the good looks of a 2-door. Let's face it, no 4-door looks as nice as a 2-door. 2-doors have a certain balance to the design. Probably why Land Rover hung on to the 2-door design for so damn long. So yeah, the 4-door is all right. The LSE that they brought out, so the LSE came out in late 92 or 93, I might be wrong there, but it's around that sort of era. And what they did, they just basically slapped another 4 inches or 6 inches into the wheelbase and stuck it all for the rear seat passengers, because there's not a lot of room in the back of one of these. I'll cue post photograph of my 6'5" son sitting in the back of this very car. See, he don't fit, does he? At all. Poor old Matty boy. He's a good boy though. But he don't fit in the back of one of these. Barely fits in the front of one of these. And I'm 6'4", but there's enough room for me. I can wear my flat cap in here. Still not touch the headlining. So the LSE they brought out was longer, and that's probably the least attractive of all of the Range Rovers, because it looks odd from the outside to my it just looks too long. Anyway, but there is more room in it. Inside they're fantastic, outstanding, wonderful things inside. And they were kind of the top of the range. The LSE was E for, I don't know, extension. Eat looks fucking horrible, but they were lovely inside. And they came with all the SE toys, so they came with air suspension, the lot. And again, they've rusted as well. Rusted like I don't know what. Back at those robots again. So, 80s cars, they're a funny thing really. The first luxury Range Rovers that came out were the ones that were kind of, I don't know, homage to the Vogue magazine, not the Vogue magazine, and they were called In Vogues. And I think they were nearly all of them were sort of like light metallic blue. They were all in 1981 or 82 or thereabouts. They started up with a 2-door, and then when the 4-door model came out, they extended into that. And I've seen them around and about, and as far as the early 4-doors are concerned, they're probably about the most valuable. You find one, and it's not too, it's not terrifically rusty, bearing in mind, to weld up a body frame on one of these things, you're talking a fair few hundred hours. And unless you're doing it yourself and you're good with a sparkly stick, it starts getting quite expensive to pay someone to do it. So that's why I think the early 4-doors aren't shooting up in value like the later cars are, which have all the toys on them, and the road comfort, and the early cars which have the good looks, and they're kind of stuck in between. I think their time will come. I quite like them. They're normally identified. So 4-door, if you can see the hinges on the leading edge of the front door, they're the early 4-doors. They run from about 1981 through to about 1989. That's when they stopped doing the exposed hinges. Then all the hinges became bump, 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 bump. Then all the hinges became a little bit more discreet inside the car. So that's it. I mean, what else can I say about Range Rovers? I think you've got to want one, really. I wanted one. I don't know why I wanted one. I just like the shape of them. I always have liked the shape of them. I grew up in the 70s. There was a Land Rover dealership down the road, and I used to like dribble, licking the windows, looking at these Range Rovers. And one day I should have a Range Rover, and I did. And it was terminally rusty, so I got another one, and that's this one. And this one became terminally rusty over the next decade. I'm getting a really steep hill now. You see the road disappearing behind me. So it's 33% this one. But I think it's actually steeper because there's a couple of corners here. So for instance, this one is more than 33%. You see the road disappearing behind me. It was going down this hill the other day where I had to slam on the brakes because there was someone coming up it, and it was a little bit slippery, and I slammed on the brakes, and that's when one of the brake lines went boop. Silly arse. I don't know what I was gabbing on about now. Yeah, like I say, I think you I remember now. You need to have one. You need to want to own one. It's because it was a car that was around when I was growing up, a bit like Stags. Although I don't ever recall seeing a Stag as a lad. First time I came across a Stag was the landlord, the pub I used to drink in when I was about 16. Had one. I didn't say that. The lad that I was drinking in my teenage years owned one. I kind of wanted one really after that. It was a nice looking car, and sounded good, looked nice. A Range Rover's a little bit like that really, except Range Rover is much more usable. I mean, I use this every single day, but it's not been broken by me doing something with it. So I use this thing every single day. Vets. Use it every single day, and it's a very, very capable daily driver. People tell you it's the most unreliable car known to mankind. I've got a theory about that. So basically my theory is that when these things were new, and this car would have been in 1993, would have been about £40,000 or thereabouts. It would have been about £40,000. And then your owner buys it and he drives it and there's a rattle. Well, didn't get that in the Bentley, so they go back to Land Rover and then moan like hell about it. And Land Rover say, yes sir, they all do that. It's a Land Rover. They say, but I just paid £40,000, Fred. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. Anyway, and then they just get a shit reputation, because the next time there's a JD Power or whatever survey, they report in that the car squeaks, or the seat doesn't always go backwards, and the door sometimes doesn't lock on the automatic locking, or, I don't know, you used half a pint of water and the Land Rover dealer couldn't fix it, because they all do that, sir. And I think because of that, they kind of got a reputation just for being a bit shit. They still work, but they're just not, you know, a high-end luxury car, which is what the set that was buying them at the time were expecting. They were expecting this thing to be like, you know, this is going to be a Rolls Royce that you can take off-road. Or a Bentley you can take off-road. They've even made one of those damn things now, but never mind. And I just think that people were expecting more from these cars than they were actually able to offer. And the Land Rover dealerships, they just wanted the money. I mean, they didn't really, like a typical Land Rover, they didn't change hardly anything at all on the two-door from 1970 until about 1981 when the four-door came out. I mean, there was a few cosmetic changes. They changed the fabric on the seats and they put two lights on the roof. And they didn't really change anything as far as the engine was concerned. They bought a slightly different engine design out in the late 1970s, early 1980s, but really, fundamentally, it was the same underpinning, same chassis, same body frame, same doors, same glass, same everything, really. Even the seats sat on the same, you know, mountings. The engine and gearbox were the same. So they did absolutely no development whatsoever in the best part of a decade's worth of production. And people were happy then. As soon as they start going through the encompassing the posher market, you know, the West London Pimlico kind of set, I guess, then people expected more from the car. And I think that's when these satisfaction surveys and these reliability surveys started identifying that they were, well, it squeaks. When I open the door, it grunts. And when I open the door, the light takes a second to come on. And I went back to the Land Rover dealership and he just said, yes sir, they all do that. And the radio won't pick up radio whatever. I don't think my radio even works at the moment. This because the aerial's not, well, the aerial's inside on these things, it's on the rear glass. Well, I think that's it. Anyway, I've rambled enough. Bored tears off you lot listening to me chuntering on. Thanks for watching.